So it's now part 35 of my giant rubber band ball, and I decided to change up the scenery a little bit. I dumped out a whole box of rubber bands of different kinds. I started by dumping these colored garbage bag rubber bands into a pile and putting these gloves on so I don't hurt my fingers, and putting all the rubber bands on, and this happened. Right into my eye socket. And it hurt, but I kept on going because the rubber band ball wasn't going to make itself. I finished off all these colored ones and then dumped out these purple ones that I ended up not using because they were kind of trash. I got out these ones instead and placed the entire pile. And I was done and exhausted. The ball is almost 100 pounds now, and it's a pretty big struggle to get downstairs. Took it out to the street and barely picked it up. Yeah, it's getting pretty hard to throw now, so I just sit on it and stand on it. Like if you want me to keep on going to 100. So after destroying our microwave with my 100-pound rubber band ball, someone left a comment saying to do a phone. But first, I'm going to do this broken TV my neighbor gave me. I put the ball on there and threw it. And it didn't do very much damage, so I just threw it again. And it mainly just bounces on it, so I stepped on it a bunch and then got out a giant snowball that was left over. And that was pretty cool and left me with a snowball. And then I got out the phone. I set it down, then threw the ball on it, but it missed, so I threw it again and it cracked it. Look at it. I'm just kidding, this is a fake phone. It's actually smashed now. So one day someone commented for me to drop my rubber band ball on a microwave, so I'm going to do that. I'm also going to crush this piece of furniture along with a few other things with this giant 100-pound rubber band ball. So I got in the ladder and threw it, and it did that. I then picked it up and plugged it in to test if it would still turn on, and it did, but the doors broke. Next, I got this jug of water I just filled up with the hose, and it did that. Then this bouncy ball that was way louder in person. And last but not least was this piece of furniture I found in my attic, and it did that. Let me know what else I should crush with my rubber band ball. So one day I got this giant hamster ball, and the next day it was raining, so I decided to get in it in this air-up dinosaur suit. But first I got it in normally just to test out the rain with more mobility. I ran through this puddle twice, and then rolled around a little bit, ran a little bit, and rolled a little bit more. And then got in the dinosaur suit and got in. And it was a struggle because I couldn't really see where I was going, so I only moved around a little bit and then got out and almost hit my head. But I got out and then ran off and jumped in the air. Let me know what else I should try. So I'm now all the way to part 36 of this giant rubber band ball. And let me know if you want to stop, but for now I'm going to keep going. So I got this new pack and, placed that entire pile on the ball, which was pretty exhausting. So I took a break, then came back later with all these colored rubber bands that I dumped into a pile and placed on the rubber band ball. And I was done. And it might have broke the scale because it reads 102 and 103. So, I don't know. Then I took it downstairs struggling. I rolled it off into the yard and into the road. And just look at this ball in comparison to my head. It's massive. And it's getting pretty hard to lift and throw. And like if you want me to keep going or just cut it in half. So after failing to destroy this snowman with my water gun and giant rubber band ball, someone commented to fill the super powerful water gun up with boiling water and then shoot it. But first I had to make another head because the other one was broken. I made it, put it on, and he was ready. I let some water boil, put the gun in, and it reacted like this. So don't try this at home because it almost burnt me. So I just filled it up with hot tub water and then went out and shot it a bunch of times. Until eventually the snowman looked like this. But that wasn't enough, so I got a bow and arrow out and shot it with a few arrows and then beat its head in. But the body is still rock solid. Let me know what else I should try. So one day it was snowing outside and I decided I wanted to build a giant snowman and destroy it with my giant 100-pound rubber band ball. So I started with the snowball and it got bigger and bigger till eventually we had our base. We cleaned it up a little bit and then I rolled around another snowball until I had the midsection. Put it on, smoothed it out, and then put on the head. We smoothed out the rest and gave it arms and a chain and turned him into Drippy Steve the Snowman. Hey, icy. Then I filled up my super powerful water gun with hot tub water and blew a hole in his face. And then supercharged his nose off. And after that, I got out the giant rubber band ball, picked it up, and threw it at his head. And he was pretty wrecked. Here's me pretending I'm a snowman, and then the rubber band ball going past, and being on him and throwing it at his back. But none of it worked, so I threw this thing at him and then jumped into him. But he was too solid. Let me know what else I should try. So one day someone commented telling me to microwave my aluminum foil ball. But first I'm going to do some other comments, including making it smoother and making this basket. This was actually my idea. And, oh look, I made it. Haha. And then I sanded it down to make it smoother, which didn't really work, but it gave me this little ball. And then it was time to put it in the microwave. Don't try this at home. I took the plate out, put it in, turned it on for 60 seconds, and waited. So one day I went to Walmart and got a bunch of cardboard to make one of those cardboard tunnel slides on my stairs like I've seen before, and tape, and then left, went home, and started building it. I taped the first box down at the top and was adding glow sticks all along on the way down. I then taped the second box to the top one and repeated this process for a long time until eventually I was done. The slide was looking pretty cool. I threw some pillows down to break my fall and went down it. And the first one was kind of anticlimactic, but my brother went down pretty fast and almost hurt himself. And on his next go, he basically destroyed the slide. So I had to remove this piece and put down a new flooring that made it actually faster. Here's a POV of me sliding down. And here's my final go. So one day I went out to the Walmart as seen on TV aisle to see if it all really worked as it does on TV. I browsed around and ended up getting these glasses, this dog brush thing, and some flex tape. And I'm even going to break a skateboard in half to test the flex tape, but I got it all, and it started with this glove thing. It is apparently supposed to remove this much hair from a dog. My dog doesn't shed that much, but I'm going to test it out on him. I brushed him for a minute with it, and at the end it looked like this, so not really. Then I got out these up-close glass things. I don't know, it's supposed to make things bigger. And I tested it on this print, and it made it bigger. And then I got outside and tested it in the real world, and I felt like Logan Paul back with the color glasses, and it made this tree way bigger. It was amazing. I'd never seen the real world this close. And then I got out the flex tape and broke this skateboard in half. I then tried to line it up back together and put the flex tape around it and wrapped it all the way around until the roll was empty. I pressed down on it, then tested it out, and it didn't really work. It was more like one of those train things. So I threw it and it landed right side up and still rolls. So one day someone commented for me to tie 4 bottles of Diet Coke and Mentos together and then throw it. So I got Diet Coke, Mentos, and tape, and I was going to tie these 4 bottles together. I got the tape out, wrapped it all the way around, then put the Mentos in one by one, and all the bottles, 3 each, then took it out of the cul-de-sac and threw it. And it did nothing. So I threw it again, and it did that. It was kind of a fail, but I just threw 2 bottles separate, and it did that, which was kind of cool. And then I wrapped 2 bottles together, thinking maybe that would work better, and it did a little bit, but not really. So then I threw another one, and yeah. So I'm now to part 37 of this giant rubber band ball. And it's getting pretty giant, but everyone still wants it to be bigger. So I ordered more rubber bands, dumped them into a pile, and started placing. And then this happened because it's getting hard to place them. But I kept on going, finishing the pile, and then I took a break and went outside to play with the ball in the snow. And there wasn't much snow, but I made as big a snowball as I could, set it on the rubber band ball, and then crushed it. And then I came back to place another pile. I dumped it out, and then I placed it a little bit differently this time. I just threw all the bands on the ball. Bam. Magic. And the ball actually broke the scale, and the scale won't read anymore, so I don't know how much it weighs. But I took it out of the cul-de-sac, and it's just pretty heavy. So, like if you want me to keep on going. So one day someone commented for me to freeze an egg in a block of ice and then shoot it out of my giant slingshot. So I put it in a cup of water. I added tape over the top, then put it in a freezer, and the next day it was rock solid. I then ran it under some hot water and got it out of the cup. And it was ready to launch. The only problem was the egg was stuck in the corner, but I'll just aim for the other side. I put it in the slingshot, pulled back, and launched. And this shot was kind of bad, but it landed, and I ran to it, and pretty much nothing happened. So I put it back in the slingshot for round 2, and it hit this tree. Well, bam. I went out to it, and the egg looked fine at first, but that was only because it was frozen. The egg was actually cracked. So then I just threw it against a tree, and then found a bat and obliterated it. Sort of. The egg was still intact. So then I just ate it. So one day someone commented for me to crush the aluminum foil ball with my giant rubber band ball, and I'm going to do that, but first I wanted to add some more aluminum foil. I wrapped it one way, and then the other with a lot of foil, and then I patted it down, and then I hammered it down. And it's almost 15 pounds. Here it is next to the rubber band ball. And here's me throwing it as high as I can. And now for crushing it. And then I flipped it on the other side and crushed it again. It didn't do that much damage. It was pretty tough. Comment what I should do next. So one day someone commented to put Flex Seal and then rubber bands on the egg. So I'm going to do that and also launch it in my giant slingshot. But first I Flex Sealed it and then came back and gave it another coat. And after that, I left and came back the next day and gave it another coat. When it was dry, it looked like this. Then I gave it one last coat and it was ready. And it was still kind of wet, but I placed a bunch of bands on it and it looked like this. Then I placed a bunch more bands on it and it looked like that. Then I got out another pile, placed it on, and it looked like that. Then I got out these big ones and it looked like that. Then I put it in the slingshot, pulled back, and launched. And it hit the ground pretty hard. I ran to check if the egg was okay and it was leaking. It wasn't. So one day someone commented on my water gun TikTok saying if you fire the gun once, then hold it down and release, it releases a more powerful charged shot. So I'm about to find out. So first, here's a normal shot, still pretty powerful, and then me loading up a powerful one. I lined up the shot and whoa, they were not lying. You just shoot twice and bam, and then I decided to let my brother shoot me with it. He aimed in, shot the first 2 shots, and yeah, it kind of hurt, so don't try this at home, and let me know what else I should try, or do. So one day someone commented for me to put rubber bands on an egg, and I thought it'd be interesting to test out to see if the bands would protect it from a drop. I started placing the bands on the egg, and then switched to a different pile because their bands were better. I kept placing them, double twisting each band because they weren't big enough. It got to this, and then I finished off the pile, and it looked like this. Pretty bouncy. And it was ready for a drop test. I took it out to the cul-de-sac, and dropped it from waist high. And yeah, it completely cracked. I didn't really expect that, to be honest. I picked it up, let it go, and then walked off sad, like if I should do something else. So I'm now all the way to part 34 of this giant rubber band ball. And it's getting kind of redundant, but I'm going to try to keep it interesting. I ordered these bands, placed them on, Then I got the other pile, which is these colored rubber bands that I actually have to untie first and then place them on the ball. And after placing this entire pile, it now weighs almost 95 pounds. I struggled to make it out to the cul-de-sac. And it's so heavy it even picked up grass. Then I picked it up and threw it. And look at it in freeze frame. Look how big it is. It's so big, there's really not much you can even do with it. Here's it next to a basketball. Here's it crushing one and then falling off. And then me trying to stand on it, but failing and crushing the basketball goal. So, like if I should keep on going or comment what I should do. This is part 4 of this aluminum foil / rubber band ball. And I started by adding more bands to it to see if it would bounce any better. I dropped it and it didn't. So I threw it up in the air and it still didn't. So then I went inside to add more aluminum foil to it. And I tried to make it more round by using a different technique of wrapping it around in circles and then patting it down. And I repeated this until the aluminum foil was all gone. I then patted the ball down as much as I could and then hit it a little bit with the mallet. And it's a decent size at 12.6 pounds. Here's it next to the rubber band ball and here's the rubber band ball on top of it, then off. Then I threw it up in the air and it left a little dent. Like if you want me to keep adding to it or let me know what I should do.